9 companions set out from Rivendell. That's the story everyone knows. 9 walkers against the 9 riders. Symmetry. Poetry. Elrond himself chose that number deliberately, except he didn't. There was a 10th member, someone who carried the Fellowship's supplies across hundreds of miles of wilderness. Someone who faced the Watcher in the water, survived the snows of Caradhras, and stood at the gates of Moria knowing he might never see grass again. And when Tolkien wrote the final version of The Lord of the Rings, this character's story was quietly pushed to the margins. Not removed entirely, but diminished. Reduced to a footnote in a tale of heroes. His name was Bill, and yes, he was a pony. But before you click away thinking this is some joke about a horse, understand something. Bill's journey is one of the most emotionally devastating arcs in the entire legendarium. A story of abuse, redemption, impossible courage, and a reunion that Tolkien considered so important, he wrote it into the final chapters of Return of the King. Peter Jackson cut it completely. Most fans have never heard of it. That changes now. To understand why Bill matters, you need to understand where he came from. And that story begins in Bree, in the stables of the Prancing Pony, with a man named Bill Ferny. Ferny was scum. There's no softer way to put it. Tolkien describes him as swarthy and sneering, a petty criminal who served as an informant for the Nazgul. When the hobbits arrived in Bree fleeing the Black Riders, Ferny was watching. When they tried to sleep at the inn, Ferny's associates were outside, letting their horses loose, sabotaging their escape. By morning, every mount the hobbits had brought from Crickhollow was gone, vanished into the night, and the only animal left for sale in all of Bree belonged to Bill Ferny himself. The price? 12 silver pennies, 3 times what the pony was worth, and Ferny knew they had no choice. Tolkien's description of Bill when Sam first sees him is brutal. Bony, underfed, and dispirited. This wasn't just a neglected animal. This was a creature that had been systematically broken, starved, worked beyond endurance, sold off by an owner who saw him as nothing more than 12 coins walking on 4 legs. Sam's reaction tells you everything about who Sam is. He doesn't complain about the price. He doesn't curse Ferny for the condition of the pony. He looks at this broken creature and sees something worth saving. Within days, Sam is sneaking him extra food, talking to him, calling him by name. And here's the first detail most people miss. Sam names the pony Bill, after his abuser. Why would he do that? Tolkien never explains directly, but scholars have proposed 2 theories. Either Sam meant it as an insult to Ferny, giving his name to a creature Ferny clearly thought worthless. Or, and this is darker, it was Sam's way of reclaiming the name. Taking something that belonged to cruelty and transforming it into something loved. Either way, Bill the pony becomes Bill, and his transformation begins. The journey from Bree to Rivendell nearly killed the hobbits. Aragorn drove them hard through the wilderness, across the Midgewater marshes, up Weathertop where Frodo took his wound, and through all of it, Bill carried their supplies. When Frodo grew too weak to walk after being stabbed by the Morgul blade, it was Bill who bore him forward. But something strange happened during those desperate weeks. Bill changed. His coat began to fill out. His eyes brightened. He stopped flinching when Sam approached. The animal that had been dispirited in Bree was becoming something else, something stronger. And then they reached Rivendell. Tolkien writes that during the Fellowship's 2-month stay in Imladris, Rivendell had worked a great wonder of change on him. He was glossy and seemed to have the vigor of youth. This is the same Rivendell that healed Frodo's Morgul wound. The same Rivendell where even mortals felt refreshed, where weariness lifted and old pains faded. Bill wasn't just recovering from malnutrition, he was being healed by the same elvish magic that sustained the last homely house. Tolkien didn't throw this detail in casually. He's telling us something. Bill belonged in Rivendell as much as any of the 9. He had earned his place. When the Fellowship departed on December 25th, and yes, Tolkien chose that date deliberately, Bill was with them. He carried the company's supplies, food, blankets, cooking gear, rope, all the mundane necessities that make the difference between surviving the wilderness and dying in it. For weeks, Bill trudged through snow and stone alongside warriors, wizards, and kings. He faced the Watcher in the water's thrashing tentacles. He endured the endless cold of Caradhras when even Legolas struggled. He never bolted, never panicked. This pony who had known nothing but abuse somehow found the courage to walk into darkness beside the most dangerous travelers in Middle-earth. And then they reached Moria. Sam's reaction when Gandalf announced they would enter the mines is heartbreaking. "Poor old Bill," he cried. "I never thought of that. What will become of him?" Sam, who had just learned they were about to enter an ancient tomb full of orcs and worse, whose first thought was for his pony. Gandalf's response is often overlooked. He doesn't dismiss Sam's concern. Instead, he places his hand on Bill's head and speaks words of power, words of guard and guiding. He's casting a protection spell on a pony. Gandalf the Grey, one of the Astari sent by the Valar themselves, uses his divine power to shield an animal. Think about what that means. Gandalf didn't do this for anyone else in the Fellowship, but he recognized something in Bill, or perhaps he recognized what Bill meant to Sam, and he blessed him. Bill was released at the doors of Durin. He disappeared into the darkness of Holland, alone, with hundreds of miles between him and any friendly stable. Orcs roamed those lands. Wolves. Worse things. A pampered horse from Rohan might have survived a few days. Bill had been half dead 6 months earlier. The movies end his story there. Aragorn tells Sam that Bill knows the way home, and we never see him again. It's presented as closure, but Tolkien wasn't finished. Now, if you're realizing Bill's story runs way deeper than the movies showed, you're not alone. I'm covering more of these overlooked characters and hidden arcs, like why Sam's real journey began after Frodo left. Subscribe if you want to keep uncovering what the films missed. And if Bill's story is hitting different than you expected, leave a like. It tells me to keep digging into the margins of Middle-earth. What happened to Bill after Moria? Tolkien tells us in The Return of the King in a chapter called Homeward Bound, one of the most emotionally loaded chapters in the entire trilogy. After the ring is destroyed, after Aragorn is crowned, after the hobbits begin their long journey back to the Shire, they stop in Bree, at the Prancing Pony, the same inn where their adventure truly began. And there, waiting in the stables, is Bill. He made it, alone. Across hundreds of miles of wilderness, through lands crawling with enemy forces, past orcs and wolves and starvation, Bill found his way to Bree and waited. For months. Tolkien doesn't explain how. He doesn't need to. Sometimes miracles don't require explanation. Sometimes loyalty is its own magic. But Tolkien wasn't done. Because Bill's story has one more beat, and it's the most satisfying moment of revenge in the entire legendarium. When the hobbits return to the Shire, they find it occupied. Saruman, yes, that Saruman, has taken over, industrializing the land, oppressing the hobbits, turning their home into a petty dictatorship. And guarding the bridge at the Brandywine is Bill Ferny, Sam's old enemy. Bill the pony's original abuser. Ferny tries to threaten the returning heroes. He doesn't recognize them at first. They've changed, hardened, become warriors. But when he realizes who he's facing, he throws the bridge keys at Merry and runs. And as he flees into the darkness, Bill the pony kicks him. Tolkien writes it with perfect understatement. Bill the pony gave Bill Ferny a kick as he went by. After everything, the abuse, the starvation, the sale, the hundreds of miles of terror, Bill gets his revenge. Not violent, not fatal. Just one solid kick as his former tormentor runs away in fear. The abused becomes the victor. The broken creature outlives the cruelty that broke him. That's not a horse story. That's a Tolkien story. So why did Peter Jackson cut all of this? Time, mostly. The scouring of the Shire was removed entirely from the films, which means Bill's reunion and revenge never happened on screen. His release at Moria becomes his ending rather than his middle. Audiences never see the payoff, but there's something else. Jackson's films focus on the epic, the battles, the CGI spectacles, the moments of obvious heroism. Bill's story is small, quiet. It happens in stables and on muddy roads, not on the slopes of Mount Doom. It doesn't translate to visual spectacle. And yet, Bill embodies everything Tolkien believed about heroism. Not the sword-wielding kind, the enduring kind. The ordinary courage of carrying burdens day after day, of surviving what should kill you, of returning home when every force in the world wants you dead in a ditch. Sam says it best in The Two Towers, though he's talking about stories, not ponies. The brave things in the old tales and songs, folk had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. Bill had every chance to die, every chance to give up. A lesser creature, a creature without whatever spark of will he carried, would have fallen in those cold miles between Moria and Bree. But Bill kept walking. There's a reason Tolkien made sure Bill survived. A reason he wrote that reunion, that kick, that final journey to the Grey Havens where Sam rides Bill one last time as Frodo sails into the West. Bill isn't comic relief. He's not a footnote. He's proof that even the smallest, most overlooked member of a fellowship can carry weight. 9 walkers left Rivendell, but 10 companions made that journey possible. And one of them had 4 legs, no sword, and a name stolen from the man who broke him. Bill deserved better than being erased. Now, at least, you know his story.